Welcome back to Just the Truth, and I'm joined now by my good friend Jacob Erie, who is the founder and editor-in-chief of StudioJake Media. He also has his own website. And Jacob, thanks so much for joining me. I want to talk about this piece that you and I both tweeted about, and you brought to my attention. It's absolutely ridiculous. From The Guardian, the title is "Future Lord of the Rings Films Should Acknowledge the Book's Queer Leanings." The debate over just how gay Lord of the Rings is will no doubt be raging in another 100 years. Jake, this is something where the leftists are trying so hard to reinvent everyone in the past as subtly or overtly gay and queer to advance the LGBT agenda. And this, as someone who loves Tolkien, actually both of us love Tolkien, this is absolutely absurd. What are your thoughts?
Well, yes, and thank you for having me on, first of all. But also, yeah, we've seen this kind of creep in, and I would have this conversation with conservatives way back in 2015, in some cases earlier, where I would say, hey, listen, the left are coming for all of our favorite sort of IPs, and that includes Middle-earth from Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, obviously. And we're seeing this where they're trying to transpose their own left-wing ideology onto these texts. And I don't think it's going to stop at Lord of the Rings. With Tolkien, he was obviously this great intellectual, fantastic writer. I've read pretty much all of his Middle-earth works. I've read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which itself is going to get a movie adaptation, at least for the Arthurian poem. But anyway, I really feel like we're going to see this happen even more. And I wouldn't be surprised if next they're going to target C.S. Lewis. They're going to say, oh, well, maybe he wasn't as great a Christian as people say he was. Look at the Chronicles of Narnia. Look at Till We Have Faces. Look at his space trilogy. I really feel like it's going to just keep stepping up and stepping up. They started with comic books, the lowest common denominator, and now they're working their way up into sort of the sphere of high fiction, of high fantasy, and speculative sci-fi.
Yeah, and this is so disgusting because obviously anyone who actually knows Tolkien knows he actually led C.S. Lewis to Christ. And C.S. Lewis, one of my favorite books is Mere Christianity, and that really informed a lot of my rational thought and view of the Christian worldview. Obviously, the Bible alone is sufficient and inerrant, but commentaries from really, really good substantive authors can help perfect your thinking in ways about the Christian worldview that really makes sense. And so for the left to just tear down history and to try to claim somehow that these figures who were very obviously and self-proclaimed Christians somehow have these latent or overt LGBTQ leanings is just disgusting. And it's also something, Jake, I think that is something the left continues to do by tearing down genuine, truthful history, like what they're trying to do with the Founding Fathers as well. But as you've noted, this is even more prolific and sinister in the entertainment world or these types of fantasy novels like Tolkien.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're already seeing it. As I pointed out, it kind of started out where comic books. Conservatives don't really care about comic books, except obviously me. But some of us were warning. Anna, that Star Wars girl, Eric July from The Blaze, Gary from Neurotic. We were saying, hey, listen, this is going to go beyond comic books. Conservatives, you need to pay attention. And even some of those guys I mentioned aren't even necessarily conservative. But sure enough, what's happening now? They're trying to go after Lord of the Rings, and I really feel that the death of Christopher Tolkien, apart from his father, JRR Tolkien, he was always a good gatekeeper of his father's works. He made sure that any adaptation of them stayed true to the narrative that his father was trying to tell, obviously trying to create sort of a legend, an epic legend for the West, for specifically England. J.R.R. Tolkien was a huge patriot of the United Kingdom, and with both of their deaths, there's no one really, apart from the family, who's really protecting his works. We're even seeing the Tolkien Society, they're waving the white flag and saying, hey, yeah, we're seeing all this LGBTQ propaganda in Tolkien, and it's just not so. And I feel that it's going to get a little worse as it goes on, because conservatives, I hate to say it, but it's just a fact, we haven't done a really, very good job of guarding these works. And so sure enough, I predict we're going to see them also go after C.S. Lewis. We're going to see them go after Father Brown, G.K. Chesterton as well. It's not going to stop with Tolkien, but Tolkien is the big fish, and if they can catch this big fish, they're going to go after other ones as well.
So what can conservatives do to continue to keep the truth out there? Because some people would say, well, why does this matter, whether they want to frame a character as gay in the 21st century that maybe wasn't when it was originally written, what's the harm? But obviously this is about the legacy, it's about the message of the author. And what can genuine conservatives do to continue to keep the truth in place?
I say keep debating it. As much as we complain about social media, rightly so, social media is a great place to engage these false narratives that are being built around. And we're seeing that people are pushing back on this sort of implantation of ideology into these textbooks and into these fictional works. And so I really think that if we continue to push back, we continue to fight with our wallets, but more so than just fighting back with our wallets, let's find alternatives. So we're saying, hey, we're not going to watch the Amazon adaptation of Lord of the Rings. We're going to go back and watch the Peter Jackson. We're going to buy more of the original books. We're going to, hey, we'll even go to England and find a first copy, and then I would sell it on eBay because I'm sure it's worth a lot of money. But anyway, yeah, that's what I would do. I would fight on all fields, start with social media, then go to the wallet, and then, like I said, find alternative routes to be able to get access to these great works.
That's so well said, Jake, and I really appreciate you coming on. And where can people find you and all of your great commentary on the comic book world and everything that you do? I find your writing really fascinating, and I love to follow you on Twitter.
Well, of course, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at @RealJakeBerry. It's the same on Getter and on Parler as well. My website is probably where you can find me the most. It's StudioJakeMedia.com. I review films and books and comic books and all other sorts of entertainment, as well as I have a YouTube channel called StudioJake. Right now it's monthly. You can also find my own fictional works on Amazon. It's The Seven Royals. I just released part 2 of my own fantasy trilogy that's coming out, so you can find them on Amazon.com or on BookLocker.com. Just search my name, Jacob Berry.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jake, and I'll see you soon. And